the video. This is the 7th of December at 1:30. Hello.
Hello.
This is our idea at the moment.
Cool.
So, this bit in black is going to be the steel deck, the raised bit of steel deck. Where the garden is. This tiny little white square is the fountain, so it's not going to be here or here.
Cool.
So, and then we're thinking for this edge, these are either going to be planters or little ponds.
Oh, okay. That would be nice. Yeah.
Box hedges at the front. This flat itself is an external wall flat, so you've got your garden bit there, and then we're going to do on the other side. We're going to paint the other side or back the other side, and then that gets your rooms.
So we can whack the prison, you know, the police station and things like that.
Police station stuff out that way. This chapel bit, we've got two columns. Have you got the photos? So instead of the whole gazebo trying to light inside a roof thing, Hoppers has got a couple of these.
Sorry.
It's those two pages there. It's a metal column, put two of them at the base of it.
Okay.
We can put vines and stuff up through it.
Yeah,
or
nice.
decoration up through it. Maybe between them put some, some cloth or something.
Yes.
Like an altar type.
Yeah.
And then.
Well, because that's a gazebo. The altar's behind the house. Sorry, the chapel's behind.
Chapel's down
up there.
Well, something like that.
No, I like that.
So we're using these curved bits, those blue bits that we've got. We're using those. We might repaint them if we can, or we'll skin them and then repaint them. You've got another two columns here, which are the square columns.
Those are the white ones.
Cool.
So we'll do the two. That's the door flat, so that might be raised up a bit, of course, to get over the top of the steel deck.
Yeah.
That gives you your area for the table,
For the terrace
and everything.
Awesome.
This little hole here might be a bed. The only one question to raise is when you do the ball scene, how much space you need.
The whole company are on, and
can it look like it's inside of, when you have weddings and marquees and stuff, could it be inside a marquee? Because if it wasn't, we could try and bring some draping in there and light it as if it's inside a big wedding marquee tent.
It's not the weddings. The weddings are separate scene. It's a party, but I
you
get
know
what you mean. Yeah.
That sort of
there's no reason why not.
Okay.
At all. The key thing with that is the biggest scene because everybody's on, and it does involve dancing centre stage, and then various scenes happening down left or down right or up by the gazebo, because we've got benches. A bench here is set here, so the scenes happen here. There's a bench down here, and then there's chairs up by the gazebo, and then there's chairs on the terrace. So they're the seated areas where the little scene would break out. And then obviously a lot of action takes place in the centre here. But the ball's the only one that might be a concern space-wise, purely because there's so many of them dancing, and then the scene's playing in front of that.
So that's one of the reasons that So this could change instead of, like I say, having the water feature can just bump around a little bit.
Yeah, I'm thinking just space-wise, it might be better further down right.
Yep. Next
to where and it moves. Look at that. If only it was that easy.
So that's just the size of the carpet, so you can get a rough idea. So this, instead of being water, we can always put it in to be gravel. Just bring it out to be gravel, full height. So just box it.
Yeah.
And that brings back to the front.
I like having a broken edge.
Yeah.
My only concern, because I think the design's great, my only concern is just the space. But to be honest with you, if it helps, I mean, tonight's plan is that at 3 they need to run Festive Frolics. They've got a show tomorrow, which apparently takes 35 minutes. So I'm going to have the company in T007 that aren't in Frolics and do some character work. And then as soon as Frolics finish, because we haven't got room in T007 to run anything properly, we're going to move, because I should have everyone apart from Jake, who's ill, so I'll have to bring in Leonardo. But my goal is, because we haven't done it yet, is to have a stagger through from the top through to the end of the orchard, which is a big chunk of Act 1, and we'll be running the ball. So it might be useful for you to see
Yeah.
space-wise, and then it'll give you a bit of an idea. Because I love the idea of there being a bed where you put it.
Yeah, little garden, little. Yeah.
My only concern is space, but possibly
Well, we could always
that's
move that bit more
forward.
close to this bit,
Yeah.
so that's
yeah,
further
that's
there.
what
That's what
that's
we
what I'm
stacked it
thinking.
like
Because
that.
that would then give us a bit more of a chunk.
It's
Um,
not too close upstage though to the
We can turn it again. We can move all the way
maybe
to
move it down here or something.
And then we just need a sort of stage travelling up from the downstage water feature up to the gazebo, some pots of trees,
Yeah.
because fame to harm
so that they can sit where we've got these gaps.
in there.
We can drop them in there. And it is modular, so it can.
We
shift.
could tweak it about.
Yeah, we can tweak it a little bit.
A bit like we had when we did Godspell, we had to do, didn't we, just to get all the bits on it. So that's not with that in mind. If we do find a problem, we might have to tweak bits.
So, in
I
terms
love
of
it.
coverage of the steel deck, we've got a couple of options. One's the gravel option, which, like I said, we can infill with gravel here because that's going to reduce the cost. The other is the turf option.
Right.
So, turfing quite a lot of it. That will put a bit more price up. Once we've worked out square meterage, we can move into it. But I think that's going to be our main cost.
Yeah.
Is turf.
Because we are up against it, as we always are budget-wise. But I mean, that was why I thought reusing the flea flat, because we haven't used them since, and so that covered. I mean, that does make.
Yeah, flattage is all good. 'Cause
But
it's
it,
a
and
piece-
we've got debt, but it is budget-wise, because the other problem is with having a cast of 24, and they all need costumes. And there's certain things we can find. I'm going to talk to Heidi to see what we can get from the Theatre Royal, because obviously costume-wise, it's got to look right. Do you know what I mean?
So,
It's not. But for a play, it's not cheap.
So, with that in mind, in terms of where your budget's going,
Mm.
gravel is the cheaper option out of the two of them. It works out minimum for a square metre about £16 for turf, whereas for a 25 kilo bag it works out about 12-ish pounds, and you can spread that quite wide across.
The only thing with gravel's noise.
Yeah, the noise element, but that's what I mean. It's whatever balance we want to play on.
Would
that.
it be possible to, again, thinking of cost, but all because it's just what I want to avoid is a flat floor. You know, I mean, and eventually, I mean, what I did at Leighton was we bought a floor cloth which we could paint, so it meant we could have different floors because that's what ties are set together. Really, it would be whether we could paint the top of the steel deck to look like it's paving of some sort.
That is an option.
Because that wouldn't have a noise factor.
No,
It
well,
would
we-
give us some.
we-
We need something light.
So,
We had the idea that we'd have a path that goes kind of like a cross from the house to each area.
Yeah.
So then we wouldn't have to put grass on those paths.
yeah,
So
that was
four
the
areas.
other side of it. But then, of course, if it's the ball, that's the spacing again.
Yeah.
It would look a bit strange if you've got a ball, but then there's a path going
Yeah.
straight through the middle of it. So it's sort of being tactical with that. But we can bring in two curves either side, so you've got a central column.
I'm thinking just practically and budget wise because I love the idea of using grass, shingle, whatever. Might be if we were to paint the top of the steel deck to look like some sort of paving.
Yep, that is.
And then use the gravel idea as a filler, as a feature. So if, for example, in those little diamonds across the front, as you said, either having gravel or grass there would be quite nice.
We could always bring this strip down. We can strip down here with some grass just to give it a bit more height. Rather than being a flat floor, we can bring the texture up with a square bit of that.
Yeah.
In terms of when you
So I was thinking, sorry, so if the bit that is going to be the predominant acting area, which is the steel deck, were painted to look like stone, that covers the bulk of the floor in something which I would light, then in the other areas where it's not so much traffic, if you like, we could fill.
So in terms of
Because we're open right out stage right, aren't we, to give us space?
Yeah. When you're saying sort of flooring flagstones, what colour palette are you looking at? Are you looking at terracottas or are you looking at sands?
Well, the
granites?
natural thing, being very British, would be something that looked a bit like sort of sandstone, Cotswold,
Okay,
that
so
sort of
sandstone slabs.
that type of thing would be nice. I don't think it'd be nice to have something light
Yeah, we can
You know.
we can look towards doing that then.
and painting it in that way, which are a little bit time consuming, but would be a fraction of the cost of trying to turf all of it.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
Mm.
That'd be a lot of money.
It would work on average. I think through looking through it on my end, it's working at about 500 nearly,
Right.
or,
For the
or
same.
at least 300 just to do the turf, just
Right.
to get the bulk of the turf in to turf it. But yeah, if we go the flagstone route, and then within the flagstones we can give little bits of texture through box hedges.
Mm.
Maybe we can just break it up so it's not a completely flat.
Yeah. That's why I like the idea of the bed, and if we've got pots around it. But then I like the idea, which is, again, for texture really, is that between the front box hedge downstage and the front of the steel deck, the idea of filling that in with gravel, I think is a really nice idea. We won't have the noise issue because it's not the
And maybe bring some lavenders or something like
Yeah,
that.
put some little bits would be quite cool.
Or long grasses if we can find them. Those
Yeah.
sort of things, okay. Yeah.
Because the key is with the position of because we use it a couple of times, and I'll explain when. With the position of the water feature, the pond, the fountain, whatever, it needs to be next to that downstage right bench. Because, for example, we actually set it last night in the scene where Beatrice comes to fetch Benedict in for dinner, and she's not happy about it. And she actually splashes him with water and he gets soaked. In the argument scene, which originally when Benedict goes to Claudio and challenges him to a duel, there would have been a sword. Obviously, in 1919, we're not going to have swords, but it needs to be quite violent. So what we're going to do is Benedict is going to take Claudio and push his head underwater. And
Yeah,
hold his head underwater.
you want that to be an actual action.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he will, at the height of the argument, he will grab hold of Claudio, little Alex Matthews, it's not really difficult, and push his head underwater and tell him, right, I'm challenging you. So, and that's quite violent. So we get the violence, but without swords and things that would be, and equally incongruous at a house party in 1919, although he'd just come back from war, to him to pull a gun. So I think making it something that's part of the environment would be, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would flow.
So practicality-wise, what that says to me,
That needs to have a depth.
yeah. So we need to raise it. So if we make that maybe a round bucketed base type thing, yeah. So we can actually get someone.
Either way, I mean,
rather than being the floor,
Yeah.
and then we're going to pond liners and stuff.
and that's why if it's next to the bench, because then for that scene, Benedict sat on the bench when she comes out, and she splashes him. So the pond needs to be accessible for action.
And
He looks at his reflection in it at one point when she's coming to make sure he's looking all right. And do you know what I mean? So there's business with the
so
water.
as for that small chat that me and you had about it, it's not actually an ornamental fountain feature, is it? It's just a sprinkler head that's going.
Yeah. Because when I did it in Manchester, they basically built a square tub, which they then put some pond liner in, and then they decorated the outside. Because that version was set in Spain, they painted it to look like Moroccan tiles. You know that when you go on holiday to Spain, you get those sort of Moroccan tiled courtyards and ponds. So it was basically a square box about this high. So it was of a height that when you sat next to when you sat next to it on the bench, if you were sat on the bench, the top of the water feature was there, so it rather could continue.
So the question I have is, do we have any of those boxes, the black boxes left, that haven't been turned into? They're all used like that. Okay.
Those are the ones we have left.
Okay. It's just would that
No,
be
not-
would
not
that be
necessarily as well.
would that be a suitable height?
Something like that
We won't have to
would work.
spend money, and we'll just paint one of those.
That and just line it.
Yeah.
And what we did, obviously, because you don't want to make a hole in it, got lining, and it was the cable for the little sprinkler went over the side of the pond, but then it was disguised because what we got were plastic, artificial reeds and things, which then hid the cable, and just also gave it a bit of height and texture. It worked, and it was quite simple. But the other plus was that, first of all, they did put a fountain head on it, but it was too loud. because it was quite, so
Yeah.
having the little sprinkler there gave quite a nice gentle background thing, because the point was it was in the garden, we wanted it on all the time, but with the fountain it was just a bit too ferocious and distracting, pardon me. So we actually put a light in the pond so it was lit, so things like the ball, which was quite nice for things like the ball scene, you had the light under the water.
That's a nice idea.
Okay.
And practicals on the house,
That's
because where we can add a bit of detail with lighting. So
there's-
practicals in the house. Also, if there was any point round here, because those orbs that you get in ornate houses, would that be a thing maybe to look at as well, just for you guys to break down more, giving more practicals within the space.
for night scenes, the two big night scenes. One is the ball, and that's all masked, so it's supposed to be a very pretty scene. So being able to suggest that the only light is coming, and I might look for the odd candle type thing to put on the terrace table. Do you know what I mean? So the source of the light is,
I think we've got a few lanterns and stuff that we can get. I've got some big candles and stuff. So
yeah, would be quite nice.
We can probably solve it through an actual candle.
Yeah.
Um,
But I think so that we feel that the actual
Yeah.
space is lit by real light. You know what I mean? It's just like not like magical.
Um,
Then the lighting can be quite dark. And the second one is when he goes to the tomb, which is how are we suggesting the chapel upstage left?
that is the one point that we're sort of thinking where we have benches. We have benches that sort of face towards.
It doesn't need, because again, we don't want lots of bringing on and off.
Okay.
So even when they go, even for the wedding scene, where we'll dress the gazebo simply in some way to suggest that's the focus of the wedding, but they'll all be standing. Because also with the thing, a lot of the scenes are quite short. I want it to be pacey. So what we don't want is to shoot ourselves in the foot by thinking we've got to bring stuff up. So like for the wedding, we won't be bringing on chairs and then taking them off again. Whatever, basically almost with the exception of props, everything we need needs to be there. So we keep it flowing.
So
do you always want somebody to go across the back on the top track?
I'm just going to come back to you because
We found 2 bits of steel deck
Oh, yeah, we did.
in Leonardo, a 3x3 and a 3x6. If those were the 2
were they
bits of
moved up
this.
there? Yeah, those are the two bits we were looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was thinking because when we move that flat to become Hero's room, if we could bring on like a dressing table just to make it feel more like a woman's bedroom, and I found quite a nice little perfume bottle, and
Yeah.
I was thinking I found a picture frame. I thought it'd be quite nice to take a picture of Claudia and put that in there, and
Yeah,
just
yeah.
add a little bit of interest with that. So
No,
she can sit there and-
totally. But again, from the flow
Yeah.
point of view, we don't want anything that takes
Yeah.
longer than, like, if the girls walk, if Hero, Ursula and Margaret walk into the scene, one of them carrying a chair and the other two carrying the dressing table, that's it. So we're talking one journey, bring it on, whack it down, take it off, so it keeps it going.
Yeah,
Otherwise, within that, anything. What we had, again, just throwing thoughts in, because again, the chapel's only used, because they marry in the gazebo in this version, the chapel's only used to be suggested. He goes to Heroes 2. So all we had in Manchester was a cross.
Could you use
We
like a
can-
gobo? Or...
And literally, it was there all the time. So it was like a feature. And then when he then went to the cross and we lit it differently, we had the feeling that he was at a 2.
Well, if it's a tomb of some sort, can we make that a room? We can do that again. Use
Yeah.
that functional if it's,
Yeah.
use that as
Because
the...
one of the ideas that we had is when we do go to this area, that we have sort of lightweight bits that we can put over the front of the flat.
Yeah.
Maybe to.
I quite like James's idea because we've got that set up.
Yeah.
So if we open that again, as we've got that set up, so that becomes Hero's bedroom. It becomes the prison.
Police station.
So again, if we thought about how we dressed it simply, it could be because he comes with his offering, which is this poem, this dreadful poem he's written, and then he sings. And traditionally, he hangs the poem on the front of the tomb. So if you think, looking at it, that Claudio comes down to the down left area and then sings there, the company are all behind him holding little votive candles. It's quite
like I
dramatic.
say, the thing is, the lighting, could you literally just focus on that very spot?
So
Yeah.
You can-
It's an
you-
opportunity
you
to
can
be
almost
really
cast-
dark,
you can
because
get
all
rest
you
of the
need
stage
to
be dark,
see,
and they could-
all you need to see is Claudio. The rest of them behind him in the gloom with votive candles is just quite a pretty moment.
So, colour scheme wise for this opening up, it's going to be, at the moment, it's a white frontage.
Yeah.
A pale white frontage. Is
Cool.
that all good as it is?
Yeah, fab.
Cool. And
Right.
then this is, of course, just the back. We haven't done the backing on here. And this is that red and white that we had. So, to change these two colours, so they're multi-use,
Yeah.
is there any colour preference that we would want to go towards?
I would be inclined, I think it needs to be neutral, because
Yeah.
the three places it suggests are very different. And make the change in what we put in it. So it to be honest with you, in order for it to blend, I'd be almost inclined to make it still white.
Okay.
Because if it's white, then, if you, for example, for the police station, if you put a window gobo on it, I'm making this up, but
Well,
or the way you dressed it is what makes it feel different.
yeah, it could be what's on the wall. Because if we to that idea of like giving us some room where we can actually change what's on it.
Yeah.
And then, like, for example, your pictures,
Yeah,
don't
put a
put
little
a
picture
table,
frame on
put a picture on the
the
wall.
wall.
Yeah.
And for the police station, put like a notice board or something.
Yeah, a notice board.
Just like, we've still got the ability to, this flat isn't probably going to be seen, so we could always move this flat down to here, couldn't we? And bring this in as another wall that we
Yeah.
can then hang stuff onto.
And also for the tomb, we always put like here lies.
Yeah.
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 Nice hero.
It's actually, there's a line in the script.
Yeah.
It says something like, I can't remember, it said something like here
Yeah.
lies hero dies of disgrace or something like that. So
Dies
it
of
could be
heartbreak.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like that, and that saves the need for anything upstage,
Yeah.
and it brings the focus down. I think that's
And if
good.
it's white, colour could also change the colour of it.
Exactly. Yeah. Now that's why I think, and as if the front of the house is white, keeping that internal white makes it a bit more flexible for what you can do with it. The moment you put a colour on it, if you make it grey for the police station, Hero's not going to have a grey bedroom. So, do you know what I mean? The way you dress it and what you put in it will make a difference.
That's it. Anybody else? No? All good? All happy? Lovely. Thank you very much, Gary.
That's all right. No, I really like it. I love having the columns because that's something different. Do you know what I mean? And so I think it's really. But the nice thing is with the steel deck, and if all the steel deck is painted to look like stone, if when we get in there we have to jiggle the shape slightly to make it fit, that's easy, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And then and the idea in the downstage bit in those little of that being gravel, which is cheaper than grass. Because also the danger of getting turf of any sort.
Well, it's going to be artificial.
Yeah, but it looks
crunchy as well.
yeah, but I think gravel is more natural. I think could look really well.
For an English manor, yeah.
I
So
think
with the gravel, though, I've got a massive bag at home. Gravel, we've got.
Of course you have.
Of course you would, Tom. Liz.
My mum has said
What names
you
you have
can.
two
You have some
Shakespeare
can
and
steel
buy
deck
it
as well?
once She gets like obviously back, not like.
Why does your mother keep a bag of gravel?
Well, we have like a massive one, like a huge
Is
one,
it-
trailer.
I
I'm
just-
going to use
okay.
it for.
It's
The
obviously-
columns. The
It's
columns.
obviously a Suffolk.
The columns are ours.
It's his
well.
family.
Yeah, we
Hello.
Yeah.
were like, why do you have two Shakespearean columns? Oh, we bought them for the garden. Alright, James.
Of course you do.
Yeah, of course you did.
They're just normal.
It's a Hopwood family.
No, I love it. Well done. I think it's going to look fab.
Yeah.
What I could do with, for budgeting purposes, is an approximate ballpark. What's that going to cost?
Can that be a next Friday thing that we can present to you?
As long as I get it before Christmas.
Yep.
Because I've got to. I haven't finalised.
Next Friday
We're
doesn't
not
exist. Sorry.
They're,
Next Thursday.
they're not in.
It's really-
Again, I'm within a few pounds, but it's just so I've got an idea. Because I don't want to sink the ship for a penny at a tar. But then we have got to do costumes, and obviously, But I haven't finalised the balance of the spring budget yet. So if I get a ballpark and then I can work out the costume and put it together, then I'll know where we're at and what I need to fund.
With it being quite prop heavy, there's of course there needs to be some set aside for the
Yeah.
prop side and the practical side as well. But we'll try and figure that into.
Furniture-wise, I've done it. I suggested the ideal furniture sits in the Theatre Royal Garden.
Yeah.
Now, whether as it's winter and they don't, whether they would let us for the week of the show borrow it, because they have a big table with 4 chairs for the terrace, and then they have other chairs, which 2 down here, 2 up, right, sorted, and it is that white, which is very English, very traditional. So that might be a borrow if somebody sweet talks Theatre Royal.
I could talk with Matthew.
All right. Awesome. Exciting. And then this afternoon, if you've got things to do, it's up to Tim. I don't need you at 3 because I'm going to do some character work. But 3:30, we move into 44 where we finally got a bit of space. I will need, as soon as Festive Frolics come out of 44, is just to place furniture in the right places. But then we're going to run what we've got so far. And I think, because it's been very bitty, that will be helpful for you.